Welcome to Cultivate the Ordinary podcast, curious conversations for the anxious, frustrated, and bored. I'm Travis.
And I'm Jessie. So often we're held captive by screens, schedules, and media that's mind-numbing and polarizing. This leaves us seeing dimly through a fog. We want to spark more imagination and a better awareness of God's presence in the everyday.
Join us on a fun journey of discovery and curiosity as we look at the ordinary through the lenses of joy, wonder, beauty, and hope. Welcome to another episode of Cultivate the Ordinary podcast. I'm your host, Travis. I'm flying solo today as Jessie is out in the world doing very important things like taxes. And I am here eating cereal and talking to myself on this recording. But I'm really excited, super stoked about this topic, and I'll get into that in a minute. But a reminder that we also have this podcast now on YouTube. So if you were more of a listener on Apple or Spotify and you prefer seeing more eye rolls, grimaces, winces, you just really can't capture that on audio. So that's part of going to video. Plus I have a trucker hat addiction. So you're going to see tons of trucker hats, including, I think, what I would say is the dopest one in my collection today. And that's the band Carbon Leaf on this hat. So anyway, our YouTube podcast, if you just go over there, it's Cultivate the Ordinary. Check out the channel. You can subscribe. And yeah. So thanks for joining today. I'm going to be talking about gratitude. And it really is a discipline that some of you may be doing awesome in and really have learned and grown in that. For me, I've not. But I really am feeling strong this year, starting off, of leaning into gratitude and just kind of connecting some dots on ways that being grateful, it just sparks an aliveness more. It just kind of, it just sets up our day in a way throughout even the day of just being more aware of all of the gifts that kind of are just abundantly in our lives every day. And, we take for granted. But it's interesting because as I'm talking about gratitude and being grateful, I'm also now, as I'm recording this now, this is kind of middle of February. So far for us, our family, 2025 has been a really, really difficult year. Started off, not long after Christmas, my brother Dan and Ginny and one of their sons, Hudson, had horrible pneumonia. It was multiple hospital trips, even different hospitals. Really got scary. At one point had surgery. He just wasn't getting better. And finally, by the grace of God and just good medical team, he got better and got out. And that was really taxing, of course, on my brother, but then just all of us, my nephew being my nephew, and just for our family. And then not long after that, my brother Jeremy, who, if you know us or have heard stories or have listened to the podcast before, we talk more about him as previous episodes. Jeremy is my brother who in 2009 with two of my other brothers were in a rollover car wreck in Montana. And that left Jeremy with a traumatic brain injury, where to this day he is tube fed, in a bed or wheelchair, completely trapped in his body, cannot speak, but is fully there. In fact, he can spell, and miraculously, like, he has more joy than anyone I know in the world. But he can spell messages and talk to us through that way. We spell stuff. And he is he is personally the most amazing person I know. And he, of course, just immune compromised. And then just because of his condition, anything with lungs and Um, Even getting the flu can turn really bad quick. And so it can really be scary. And he ended up getting pneumonia. This was just over 2 weeks ago. He went to the hospital, and whenever he goes in the hospital, it just gets bad from there. It's usually never just into the hospital, get checked out and home. It's, the next dominoes of scary things happen. So in his case, he uh, just had some scary things, sort of continue to transpire with his pneumonia, kind of getting worse, you know, trying other antibiotics and kind of twists and turns. And anyway, he just got discharged from the hospital this past Sunday, which meant he was in the hospital for 2 weeks. And again, with scary twists and turns, and you're getting updates. And it looks like you're out of the woods, and then something else, and then he's going backwards, and you're just kind of wondering, like, are we getting close to like losing him, and all these things. And so it has been a really tough road so far to walk, in terms of just a lot of medical scary things, for all of us sharing the load of being in the hospital, overnights, like my brother Dan was doing with his son, with Jeremy some, and then just being in there advocating. Jeremy literally does not have a voice. So if you know anything about hospital care, and how important it is to advocate, I mean, someone has to be in there all the time. So while that was happening, Jess and I were on a cruise celebrating our 18th anniversary coming up. And so while that was amazing and incredible, Jeremy was in the hospital dealing with this. And so it was kind of like also that lingering just weight of uncertainty, and the fear of all the what ifs. And then also here we are on a cruise, just kind of living all the luxury and just escape, such an escape from the world, and trying to navigate emotionally both those worlds of trying to just enjoy that, and then also with Jeremy. So all of that to say, it has been, as I've said, a really taxing start to our year. And then interestingly though, gratitude is the thing I just keep coming back to. And so it's probably no coincidence that just with all this, kind of medical scares and suffering and stuff, that I've found a grounding and a rootedness in gratitude, and really grateful for that. Maybe on a future episode when Jess and I are together, we'll talk more about some of our just the observations and things we had on this cruise together. But I'm going to start off with a story that is just incredible, and really is all about gratitude. But there is our favorite band is Carbon Leaf. They're kind of a folk Celtic rock. Hard to put them in a total category, but a lot of Irish influence and rock, and they have just been awesome for us for like years and years. We've loved them so much. We brought friends to their shows, love their music, super inspiring. I'll put a link in the show notes. Check out their stuff. But they have been an incredible band and their music. And there's also been this weird convergence of them personally in our lives. I think it was around the time of like 2009 or 10, shortly after the accident. Jeremy was in a traumatic brain injury rehab center in Charlotte, and Dan and maybe, I don't know if it was any of my other siblings, were with him, and they just happened to run into the band staying, I think, at the same hotel, and sort of quickly, said something to them, and then just said why they were there. And Jeremy was in this rehab center, and the band offered to go to his hotel room and play, or to go to the hospital and play. And it didn't work out in their schedule with that day that they were able to do that. But the fact that they, offered that and really cared so much to hear about Jeremy was incredible. Um, Later through the years, a few years ago, I wrote the book Shiny Eyes, and referenced a really powerful few verses from a song of theirs that I got permission from the band to put in the book, because copyright's really weird around like um, artists, like music artists, words versus just like authors. So like it's a whole nother ball game because of, I guess, just that type of content. So like you're supposed to actually get the band to sign off on using their lyrics. So they were super cool about that to put in the book. So we're on this cruise and the cruise that we were on was in part because Carbon Leaf was one of the headliners, and there was a thing called the String Break Tour. So it had Carbon Leaf and other bands that were uh, playing, and so anyway, so like that's partly why we're on this cruise for the String Break Tour, it was called. And so we got to see all these cool bands, and so you're on this ship, and big normal ship, and then the rest of the passengers are just on it for a general cruise. So but anyway, in the evenings we got to see all these bands for the shows that we were signed up for to watch. And at one point I was able to talk to uh, one of the musicians, I believe his name was Terry, in the band, and just thanked him for kind of that moment about playing in the Jeremy's rehab room, offering that, and just how cool they've been and love their music, and had that interaction. And then later on, I I was hoping that I could talk to the lead singer Barry Privet, um, and just share with him kind of the same stuff, and just personally thank him. And you're on this ship of like over 4,000 people, and if you've been on one of these cruise ships, I mean, there's massive dining halls and buffets, and there's so many restaurant options and all that. And so the chances of me and Barry ending up in the same food court at the same time, with me spotting him at the table, is just insane that happened. But total God thing. I mean, this was Jeremy was in the throes of, in fact, that day was one of the darker days of his pneumonia journey. And I see Barry sitting at the table, and I walk over and awkwardly sing a line to one of their songs. I think they have a line that said, "Could you be any more comfort to me?" That's kind of a line in their song, and I said that to him because, I mean, if you're gonna be an awkward fan, why not just embrace it and be like really awkward? So I did, and he laughed. And probably felt sorry for me for that effort, but it was. And so anyway, that was the start, and hung out for a little bit at the table and got to share just my gratitude for them offering to play for Jeremy, though it never happened, and just about their music, how inspiring it's been in our lives, and then lyrics in the book and all of that stuff. And it was amazing. And at one point I felt like Barry, his eyes teared up just hearing more about Jeremy and all that he battles. And I said, man, would you be willing to just do a short video selfie for Jeremy? And he's sure. And he grabs the phone and does this awesome little shout out to Jeremy. He's thinking about him. And we send that to my brother Dan and play that in the hospital room for Jeremy. And it was just a magical moment, a profound moment. And again, just God orchestrating just the intersection of the timing of, seeing Barry, but also just this like convergence of our lives with this band, and, them kind of arriving at the scene in these pivotal moments for us, in a way. And so, I'm going to share that. And so anyway, that was really, really incredible. And it reminded me in that time, that was a very dramatic moment of feeling gratitude over the way in which God does give us gifts. And, you know, I mean, that was a big one, but it got me thinking too, like how often, like in that case with Jeremy and his suffering, and going through a really scary time, I feel like there's also a sense of more desperation sometimes in me to be much more looking for God's presence and fingerprints. Cause I'm just I just need something, to lean on. And so I'm reminded, thinking of that, how probably more often, if we were to be more aware in just the everyday moments, and they're not maybe always these big grand, I mean, this was a big moment with Carbon Leaf, but much less dramatic things that are happening, I would say all the time, and I think certain people that really lean into gratitude and are looking for, just signs of, God's goodness and presence in the everyday, are seeing those things. And so anyway, I thought that was just that was a powerful moment for me then to kind of continue to then look for gratitude in the days after that, of just other little things. I love that. There is a great line by the Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, who said, "Our goal should be to live life in radical amazement. Get up in the morning and look at the world in a way that takes nothing for granted. Everything is phenomenal. Everything is incredible. Never treat life casually. To be spiritual is to be amazed." And I just think, how cool, just to live in amazement and wonder. A couple other really just inspiring quotes around this thing with gratitude, there's another one by brother David Steindl Rast, who says, "The root of joy is gratefulness. It is not joy that makes us grateful. It is gratitude that makes us joyful." So I want to repeat that again. It is not joy, he says, that makes us grateful. It is gratitude that makes us joyful. And so I think that reality of gratitude catalyzing our joy, not the other way around. And I think they can be linked, and I think it probably can flow bi-directionally. Like, joy can, make us see things with, more gratitude. But I do love that truth, that I think it really is gratitude that's making us joyful, because we're able to just, have a lens to see, in such a way that we see the little gifts, we see the things, and you can't help but feel like you're receiving something in that. Um, and I think he says somewhere else that he talks about, gratitude is also is making us more alive. We talked, in the previous episode about, the idea of becoming more alive, living fully alive. And so gratitude also has this, really life-giving spark, and I think just to living. And so, yeah, I don't know, I just have kind of been in this place personally, despite all the shadows of scary things and things happening, of this posture of, finding much more joy and gratitude, and finding like stability there. Um, and Yeah, I want to share one more quote, and this is one of my favorite all-time quotes. Again, this is one that I think can change the direction of just kind of how you see and kind of experience the world. But it's the writer Kurt Vonnegut says, "Enjoy the little things in life, because one day you'll look back and realize they were the big things." And that quote is just, man, is that powerful to me. I think of, this whole thing of like looking back at our childhoods, and, the times that um, some of the greatest memories, the moments of that you carry your whole life. It could have been the Disneyland trip. It could have been, some huge thing, some huge experience. But I think for a lot of us, it is those small moments, the things that at the time just seemed, I mean, if nothing else, ordinary. But whether, it might have been just like building a sandcastle with your dad on the beach when you were 7. Might have been, I don't know, like I have a memory of my dad on the farm, like super busy all the time, but like fixing our basketball court or basketball hoop and just working on that at the end of a long day of like all the other stuff he was doing. And I just remember how amazing that was and just feeling like loved and stuff. And so I think like when we look back on our lives, we can really identify in our childhoods or even through our life, all of those moments that they were the little moments, those times with maybe friends or maybe you're at the lake with, some of your best friends or something, but those little things. And I think those things then added together do become those big moments that he's talking about. And then just as parents, that's a really good reminder too, of just leaning into and realizing that, those little things in life really are the big things. And so how much it means to like take time out of our day to just go toss the football and I reminded that a lot more of myself of just, we have like 4 teenagers. One's off at college right now, but it's, if you have teenagers, especially it's like how busy they get, how busy we are as parents. But when they're still like ever leaning into like, want to do something with you as a teenager, I mean, that is especially like, man, that's a golden ticket. And so, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's something I feel encouraged about and challenged to, just as a dad, to lean into those things that, again, are just the small little things. But at the end of the day, and at the end of, really at the end of life, those things became big moments, and can never know in the moment how big that thing actually is in terms of a memory or experience or just a place that we find special in our heart. So those are the main things, I guess, in this monologue of me talking about gratitude today. And I just really hope that we all can find ourselves more in this space and start to realize, like, even just daily, of like these building blocks of like, maybe it's just saying, hey, if I can just try to be grateful for one thing a day, I mean, I really do think that when we start to see with that lens of gratefulness, that I do think like we start to then see much more out of that lens and see things with grateful eyes. And we start living differently. You just can't help but like want to see, and be aware and be more thankful for all the amazing gifts and moments that God gives us and sprinkles throughout a day, whether it's sometimes big moments like that carbon leaf intersection for me, or, just these small little things. So that is what I wanted to say today. And I hope that you're having an awesome day, and I hope you can continue to work on that space of gratitude with me, and we can see the world through those eyes. Have a great day. Thanks for listening to the podcast today. I hope you found something helpful, hopeful, or thought-provoking. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to any resources mentioned in the podcast. And we also have links in the notes for our own resources to check out. We would really love to hear from you. And we're also really grateful for your support by sharing the podcast episodes with your friends and family and leaving a rating and review. May we all regain and maintain our wonder, hope, and inspiration as we look at our ordinary through new and fresh eyes.